So this is the Muslady electric guitar kit, the headless guitar with 5-way switch that I bought off eBay. It was $97.99, $98. So I bought this because I was curious about a Steinberger type headless guitar and how a Steinberger trem works. And I was just going to slap it together, not paint it or anything, just to play around. Hey YouTube, I've been recording my trials and tribulations of the overlord of music trem. I think you buy this off of eBay from China for like $30 or something like that. Anyways, so somebody commented that they wanted to see what the build looked like. So I said, okay, I could actually do sort of a review of the Muslady, Muslady kit. Not really sure what Muslady means, but well, here it is. So it is almost complete. There's still a few adjustments that I need to do on the trem and the bridge and all that kind of thing, but it's mostly done. So I just kind of wanted to talk about the Muslady kit. So I'm kind of happy with it. Spent like $100 or something like that for the whole kit. This was meant to just play around with it, so I was just gonna slap it together, bolt it down, and just play around with the trem and see what it was like. But I ran into a few issues. So with this Muslady kit, I would not recommend it for absolute beginner because it is not a simple put everything together and it'll work. Did quite a bit of woodworking. I kind of mentioned it, I think, in my other videos, but for example, the neck cutout. This thing has a tang, or the fretboard is sort of a tongue style that goes over it, but the neck pocket, which is cut like that, was actually cut too far down by half an inch. So this ruler is about a half inch thick or wide. So this ruler line is actually where the neck pocket was cut to. When I first put the guitar together, basically just bolt it on, right, and then see if see how it will play. Something was wrong with the tuning, because obviously I need to check the intonation or whatever. And then I tried to intonate it and I couldn't. And again, it turns out that, of course, the neck was this way by half an inch. So I had to move the neck up half an inch, or I guess I could have moved the trem back a half inch, but as you could see, let's see, as you may not be able to see, there's maybe a quarter inch, or is that an eighth? Half, yeah, it's about an eighth of an inch, I think. Yeah, 32nd, 1/8, yeah. I can move it back about an eighth of an inch and that's it. So that's not enough for intonation. Alternatively, I guess I could have hogged this out further, and then the whole trem will shift down, but then you still have this wide gap in here. So basically what I had to do was move the neck up half an inch, and I basically put a half-inch block in a neck block, so the neck will butt against something so it won't get pulled in. Another problem was that this is normally an single hum pickup layout. The hum is like an EMG style sort of black plastic covered unit, but the radius of the humbucker cutout that came with the guitar was kind of very rounded, very large radius, so the humbucker will not fit. Because that thing has a much sharper corner. Basically, I had to file down the corners in order for the humbucker to fit. And then there were the two single coils. Actually, the routing of the single coil was too narrow this way, right? So basically, I couldn't even get the two single coils into the cavity that this guitar came with. And also the placement of the volume knob. Let's see. I think originally the hole was cut like around here and down here, and then there's a 5-way strap type switch. When you play and then you try to go to the volume, the trem arm gets in the way because it's down there, or then you have to come up over here. So basically, I wanted to move the controls. I think basically, let's see, the volume knob I think is around here normally. I moved it up about an inch, inch and a half, and this tone I think is moved up also. It still fits in the original cavity of the guitar, and of course this was a 5-way switch converted to a Les Paul type 3-way switch. Let's see. And another problem was this trem, the cavity of the trem was cut too deep. So even with the bridge height all the way up, basically if you're talking about the two middle strings here, all the way up, it will not clear the fingerboard. So, so basically I had to put a shim underneath here. I think it was like 2mm shim or something, in order to raise the bridge, so I actually will clear the neck. Let's see. And on the headstock side, this is a little bit tricky. So when I just slapped this on originally, and you know, I haven't cut this thing off, so it's kind of messy. But so there is a break angle. The string comes over, here's a 0 fret, and then it has to break down. But the way the original configuration of the fingerboard and the end of the neck is, basically it wasn't allowing the string to go down enough, so it was almost a flat angle coming in. So especially on the number 1 string, the thin string, it was kind of buzzing on the 1st fret because there was not enough break angle on the nut, I guess. So what I had to do was basically need to hog it out, hog the neck out down a little bit. And also there's a relationship between this angle of the neck and that angle of the piece, so that has to match too. So basically I had to modify this thing so it'll be a good fit, and even then at the end here you could still see a little bit of gap. So yeah, here you go. Yeah, that gap right here, it shouldn't be there, but I was kind of sloppy. And also the other thing is that here was the original nut. I actually had to buy a second one because this thing stripped out. This is the let's see, the sort of the clamp for the 5th and the 6th string. And I mean, I don't really tighten this thing down really hard, but it just stripped out. So the screw will no longer hold. So I had to buy another one of this, and it's like 10 bucks off eBay from China. So it's no big deal. But if you look at the bottom side of this thing that kind of lands on the fingerboard, maybe hard to see, but it's flat. Whereas the fingerboard has a 10-inch, I think, radius. So right around the middle where the fingerboard radius will come in, it'll top out, but on the ends there'll be a gap. Which causes the, let's see, is that true? Yeah, which I think, yeah, so it causes the break angle to be less on the strings on the end compared to the one in the middle. So what I ended up doing here is from right around here, yeah, kind of hard to do. And that way, basically, I had to put a flat plane on the rosewood fretboard. Again, the rosewood fretboard is normally curved by about 10-inch radius here. So basically I had to dig it down so it'd be flat, so this thing will sit in order to get the string angle. And one other thing of note is that there are 2 screws. I don't know if you can see it. Here we go. that holds this nut to the end of the neck. They don't really have instructions on which screws to use, but use the larger one. The small one, both of them, both of the small ones. I use the small one because it fit better in the bevel for the wood screws head part, the wedge, whatever you called it. But both of them actually snapped when I was backing it out when I was trying to take it off because it's not strong enough. So, so again, use the big one. Some difficulty in holding down the number one string. So basically, you put the string comes in here and just goes straight through the unit like that. And there is sort of a, I think it's called a grub nut or a grub screw. And this thing is supposed to clamp down the string against, let's see. Yeah, so here is a hole. So the strings come here, and here's the sort of the locking trim part. And it goes down this hole, and then the grub screw clamps down on it. But it's not a very good clamp. So you kind of have to work around it. So you're kind of using that as well as this sort of the normal trim, like a Floyd Rose trim, in order to hold the strings down. And the key is, don't make it too tight because mine's stripped out. All right. And what else? So another thing of note is that let's see, the jack plate that comes with the kit is a joke. Cosmetically, it just looks like a tin piece that's been cut out with a scissor or something like that. It's just too flexible. So those are the things that need to be kind of adjusted and addressed before you could complete this kit. In terms of the modifications I made, obviously the the neck cutout, the SSH configuration, the volume knot or the control locations, and that basically I had to change that so I had to cap it one way or another, whether using a plastic pick guard or something of that sort. So basically I just picked up this flame maple top. I think it was like $22 or something like that, plus shipping maybe. So I have this sort of full binding, I guess. It's basically it's not stained. It's just showing the end of the maple, which I put into this thing. Let's see what else. So in terms of the pickup, rather than using the SSH, which is kind of like the EMG Select single coil and the humbucker, I never even played it because it never fit. I got these cheap Chinese humbucker. I think for the pair I paid like $12 or $15 or something like that. Saw a YouTuber, I think his name was Max. So he was buying the cheapest pickup from China or something like that and playing it, and he said it sounded pretty good, and to me it sounded pretty good too. So I went ahead and tried it, and actually it sounds pretty good. 10-20 years ago, I think I got a guitar with a Chinese pickup, and it sounded very shrill, ice picky. I think it was a ceramic pickup, but this one actually sounds pretty good. It is an Alnico 5, or at least it claims it's an Alnico 5 pickup. Sort of PAF level resistance or winding, front and rear pickup about the same output. It's not a high output rear pickup. Normally I'm a front pickup guy, so 90% of the time I'll be playing the front pickup, and only when I need more treble or something like that to cut through, I would go to the rear of the bridge pickup. Is kind of my style. A lot of the guitars that I play, whether it's a Les Paul or a dual humbucker Telecaster or whatever, there seems to be quite a big difference between the front and the rear pickup. So once I set up my amp for the front pickup, the rear doesn't really work because it's kind of a different sound. The only time I would use the rear is if I'm cranking a Marshall or something like that. In that case, the sound gets too muddy unless you use the rear pickup. But the sound difference between the two, and it might be because the distance between this pickup and this pickup is pretty close, it's not that big, right? So this is obviously sharper and brighter, but not significantly. So I'm thinking that maybe I could actually use both pickups constructively. Also, when I talk about the sort of treble part, cutting through the band, you know, when your other guitarist kind of gets loud, I don't really want to go up on the volume in order to cut through, but I like to shift my sort of sonic range to a more trebly setup. So the way I usually have my guitar set up is it is a 2 humbucker guitar, and with a push-pull parallel series, well, so it's series, a regular humbucker when it's down. This is for the front. And a parallel humbucker when it is up. So the output reduces significantly, but there is a lot of treble that comes through, and sometimes it's enough to cut through. And of course, for the rear pickup, again, same thing. I do have a series parallel. I don't use a coil split because I can't handle a 60 hertz hum. And the parallel pickup situation sounds close enough to a single pickup for me. And also, standing the guitar, I put the strap button on both sides because normally there's a strap in the middle that holds the guitar up, but in this case you're relying on the 2 straps button on the thing. So I'm actually ordered another one. I'm going to put one behind it so I could put a strap on. All right. So in order to put the top on, it is about a 1/4 inch thick top. So basically I use this thing called a safety planer that hooks up to your drill press, and basically took off about a 1/4 inch off the top of the guitar. I can't remember if this thing already had a forearm counter, but I basically put that in. On the back side, let's see, it's not very pretty. It was meant as a sort of utility guitar, so excuse all the scratches that I didn't get out. So it came with so I used the basic cavity cover that it came with it. I changed the neck plate. Basically it came with a square neck plate, but I wanted to get better access, so I bought this type of plate, the cutaway type plate, and I use it. And I'm very, very happy with this because now I could go all the way up to the 24th fret without having to get your finger up front or something. And also tuning issues with the locking trims. You need Allen keys, and then I usually have a set of Allen keys or a pair of Allen keys attached to the back of the headstock. But since this doesn't have a headstock, I actually carved in a sort of cut out a cavity. Not very pretty, just did it with the chisel, and use a Goto holder, and basically I put the 4 Allen key in here. The smallest Allen key is for bridge adjustment. The second one is for that grub nut at the top to hold the string. The larger one is for the locking, and is this the larger one? Oh, I may be off. So this is the smallest one. And this must be for the grub nut. This must be for the locking nut. And this is nothing, actually. It'd be nice if I had it for my truss rod, but the truss rod one is bigger than this, and it won't fit into this thing. So basically I have this here. If you look at it from the top, you can't see it's there. So this is the only place I could figure out to put the Allen keys in there. Okay. I think that's about it. I'm still having an issue with that trim. The shifting is not a problem, but I think I showed it on an earlier video about that sort of a groove in that the lever that catches on the bottom of the trim, and so it's just kind of still moving, and the movement itself is not a problem, but it's rattling when I'm playing. So I need to figure out what to do with that. Anyways, so that is what it is. Oh, also I changed the dots. It was a cheap plastic looking one. I just drilled it out and put pearls instead. The pearls just fit right in, and I didn't have to sand it down or anything like that. So that's kind of a nice thing, I guess. All right. Okay, that's it.